Have you ever wondered why a man often realizes a woman's worth only after she walks away? Why does the heart beat louder, the mind ache deeper, and the soul long harder when something that seemed secure suddenly slips away? This question has lived inside human psychology for centuries. Men, who often believe they are strong, unshakable, and in control, discover a hidden weakness when a woman lets go. And in that moment of silence, when the messages stop, when the voice fades, when her presence disappears, something inside a man begins to collapse. It is strange, isn't it? While she was near, he thought he understood her value, but only in the emptiness, only in the space she leaves behind does he begin to see her light. This is not weakness. This is not foolishness. This is the deepest law of human psychology. We rarely value what is right in front of us until it is no longer ours to hold. But here's the truth. That shift, that sudden ache, is not just about missing someone. It is about confrontation, a confrontation with the self. A man is forced to face the reality that what he thought was guaranteed was never guaranteed at all. And that confrontation has the power to change him. Think about this. When you hold a glass of water in your hand, you don't think of its weight. It feels light, it feels effortless, but hold it long enough and suddenly it becomes heavy. The same is true for love. When it is always available, always within reach, the mind stops noticing its weight, its value, its meaning. But when it is taken away, when the hand is suddenly empty, the absence feels unbearable. This is why men fall harder for women who let them go, because the mind begins to replay every smile, every moment, every detail. The silence becomes louder than the words, and the absence becomes more powerful than the presence ever was. Psychologists call this the power of loss aversion. Human beings fear loss twice as much as they value gain. It means losing what we have hurts us more deeply than gaining something new can ever satisfy us. That is why when a woman walks away, the man does not simply feel her absence. He feels a storm inside his chest, a storm that whispers, "You should have done more. You should have seen her value when she was there." And here lies the hidden lesson. In life, we are all guilty of this, not just in relationships, but in opportunities, in friendships, in dreams. We think there will always be more time, more chances, more tomorrows. But one day the door closes. And only then, in the silence of what we have lost, do we finally wake up. So why start here with this painful truth? Because pain, when understood, becomes power. And when men experience this kind of loss, many of them rise. They rise to understand responsibility. They rise to rebuild themselves. They rise to finally see with eyes that were once blind. If you are listening now, let this be more than just a story about men and women. Let this be a mirror, a reminder that what you hold today is valuable. The people who stand beside you, the opportunities in front of you, the love you are given, all of it is fragile. And one day it can disappear. The question is, will you see its value now or only when it is gone? This is the hook of our journey. And if you stay with me until the end, I promise you something powerful, a new way of seeing relationships, responsibility, and love through the lens of Jordan Peterson's insights. Insights that do not just explain why men fall harder when women let go, but also reveal how we can use this truth to build stronger, deeper, more meaningful bonds. Because at the end of this video, you will not just understand why men chase when it is too late. You will understand how not to wait until it is too late to act. And that knowledge, if you let it sink deep, can change not just your relationships, but your life. When something slips from our hands, the mind reacts with more intensity than it ever did when that same thing was within reach. This is the paradox of human nature. We don't feel the full weight of value until it is no longer ours. That is the psychology of loss. Every human brain is wired with a principle called loss aversion. It means that losing something hurts far more than gaining the same thing brings joy. Imagine winning $100. It excites you, but only for a short moment. Now imagine losing the same amount. That pain lingers. It bites. It echoes in your thoughts. The loss feels heavier than the gain ever felt rewarding. This is exactly what happens in relationships. When a woman walks away, the man's mind doesn't just register absence. It experiences an earthquake. Every memory turns sharper. Every smile that once felt casual suddenly feels priceless. Every detail that once blended into routine becomes a painting etched into his heart. That is the cruel beauty of loss. It paints meaning where the eyes once failed to see. Think about it. While she was near, her laughter was simply part of the room. It was natural, expected, ordinary. But when silence takes its place, that silence screams. The brain does not forget sound, it remembers the echo. And in that echo, a man begins to feel what he refused to feel before. She mattered more than he admitted. Why does the human mind work this way? Because loss creates urgency. Gain feels optional, but loss feels permanent. The human heart is terrified of forever gone. That phrase breaks illusions, destroys pride, and awakens gratitude, but always too late. And in this awakening, men fall harder. They begin to crave what they once ignored. They begin to chase what they once neglected. The psychology of loss is also about unfinished stories. When someone leaves, the brain feels incomplete. Human beings are not only emotional creatures, we are also storytellers. We need closure, resolution, a final chapter. When a woman walks away, the man's inner story feels cut off, unresolved. That lack of closure becomes unbearable. It pushes him to think, to replay, to desire a different ending. But here lies the deeper truth. Loss is not just about missing another person. It is about confronting yourself. A man realizes that he did not lose just her presence, but also the version of himself he could have been with her. He lost the chance to love better, to speak deeper, to rise stronger. That is why the pain cuts so sharply, because loss whispers you could have been more, but you chose less. And this whisper has power. It has the power to break a man or to rebuild him. Some men drown in it, blaming fate, cursing the past, clinging to pride, but others allow this pain to become a teacher. They finally understand that what they ignored yesterday was the very thing they needed most. They finally see that relationships are not about control, but about presence, attention, and care. The psychology of loss teaches us something beyond relationships. It teaches us about life itself. We lose time, we lose opportunities, we lose people we love, and each time the heart learns the same lesson. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is guaranteed. And everything you take for granted today may become the very thing you cry for tomorrow. So what does this mean for love? It means the deepest feelings often reveal themselves in absence. Men who sometimes hide their emotions behind logic or pride can no longer hide when loss arrives. Their defenses collapse. Their strength feels fragile. And in that moment, they realize the truth. Love was never weakness. Ignoring it was. This is why many men fall harder for women who let them go. Because loss is not gentle. It is a fire. And fire burns away illusions, leaving only what is real. The real value, the real need, the real love that was always there but never seen clearly enough. So let the psychology of loss remind you of this. Do not wait for absence to teach you presence. Do not wait for silence to make you appreciate laughter. Do not wait for goodbye to make you whisper, I love you. Because once loss arrives, the lesson will be powerful, but the price will be heavy. And this is the strange blessing hidden in pain. Sometimes it takes losing what you thought you didn't need to realize it was everything you ever wanted. One of the most powerful illusions in human relationships is the illusion of control. Men often walk through love believing they hold the upper hand. They think they are the ones choosing, deciding, setting the pace. They believe the woman will always be there, always waiting, always forgiving. But life has a way of breaking this illusion with brutal clarity. When a woman finally steps away, the illusion shatters. The man discovers that he was never in control of love. He was only in control of his choices. And his choices, whether careless or distracted, created consequences he could not escape. Suddenly, the very thing he thought he could never lose slips through his fingers, and he stands there, powerless, watching it disappear. Control is a comforting lie. It gives the mind a sense of safety, a sense that nothing will change unless we decide. But relationships are not built on control. They are built on respect, attention, and effort. And when a man forgets this, he slowly replaces love with entitlement. He starts to believe her presence is guaranteed. He starts to think he can delay his words, delay his effort, delay his care. And when she finally walks away, reality delivers its harsh reminder. Love cannot be controlled. It can only be nurtured. Think about this. When you hold sand tightly in your fist, the harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. Love is the same. The moment you treat it as possession, the moment you believe it is bound to you no matter what, you start losing it. And when it finally leaves, you realize that control was never real. What was real was the responsibility to protect what you had, not the power to own it. Men fall harder after being let go because the loss proves something they never wanted to admit, that love was never a guarantee. The control they thought they had was nothing more than comfort built on routine. And when that routine breaks, their heart is forced to see the truth. Love exists only as long as it is cared for. This illusion of control is tied deeply to human pride. Pride convinces a man that he is the one in charge, that he sets the rules, that his strength makes him the leader in love. But pride blinds. It prevents him from seeing that true strength is not about control, but about humility. True strength is knowing that love can walk away if it is not honored. True strength is choosing daily effort, not assuming permanent ownership. Or when a woman chooses to leave, it shakes the foundation of that pride. It shows him that his assumptions were fragile, his dominance imaginary, and his control nothing more than a shadow. That shock cuts deep because it is not just the loss of her, it is the loss of the story he told himself, the story that he was in command. But here lies the hidden gift. When illusions break, reality enters. And reality, though painful, is the only place growth can happen. When a man realizes he was never truly in control, he has two choices. He can collapse into bitterness, blaming her for leaving, or he can rise into responsibility, finally understanding that love is a partnership, not a possession. The illusion of control exists not only in love, but in life. We believe we control time, yet every day slips faster than we notice. We believe we control opportunities, yet once missed, they rarely return. We believe we control people, but every person has the freedom to walk away. The sooner we awaken from this illusion, the sooner we begin to live with urgency, gratitude, and care. And this is why men fall harder, because letting go strips away the illusion. It exposes the raw truth that nothing is truly ours to command. What we have is borrowed, fragile, temporary, and in that realization, the heart begins to ache with clarity. The woman he thought would stay forever is gone, and in her absence, he sees what control blinded him to see. She was not an object of possession, she was a gift. The greatest pain is realizing the gift was in your hands all along, and you treated it as a guarantee. That is when the heart cries the loudest. That is when men fall to their knees, wishing for one more chance, one more moment, one more opportunity to choose differently. The illusion of control is dangerous because it delays love. It makes men believe they can express care tomorrow, that they can give effort later, that they can show gratitude someday. But tomorrow is not promised, later may never come, and someday often arrives too late. So let this truth sink deep. Love is not under your control. It is under your care. You cannot demand it. You cannot command it. You cannot own it. You can only honor it. And the day you forget this, love will remind you in the harshest way possible, through absence. That is why letting go is so powerful, because it removes the illusion, and what remains is reality. A reality that makes men fall harder, not because they suddenly love more, but because they finally see the truth of what they had and what they lost. It is often said that absence makes the heart grow fonder, but this saying is not just poetry. It is rooted in the deepest parts of human psychology. The truth is, we rarely recognize the full value of something while it is present. The mind normalizes it. The heart assumes it will always be there. And only when it is gone do we feel the weight of what we had. When a woman leaves, the man begins to see with different eyes. The ordinary becomes extraordinary in memory. The little things he once overlooked now feel priceless. Her smile, which once blended into daily routine, now appears in his mind like a masterpiece. The sound of her voice, once background noise in his day, now echoes like a song he cannot escape. This is the value of what's missing. The realization that what was taken for granted was actually the treasure of his life. The human brain is designed to filter out repetition. What we see daily, we stop noticing. It becomes invisible. This is why gratitude fades so easily. We adapt to comfort, and comfort blinds us. A man living with a woman's presence may stop appreciating her because his mind convinces him that she will always be there. He mistakes consistency for permanence, but when she walks away, the filter breaks. Suddenly, he notices everything his blindness ignored. This is why missing someone hurts so deeply. It forces the heart to remember what the eyes forgot. It forces the soul to replay every small detail, every laugh, every shared silence. And in this replay, the man realizes he did not lose just a person. He lost a world built of memories, of comfort, of connection, and that world cannot be replaced by anyone else because it was uniquely hers. The value of what's missing is also tied to scarcity. Human beings crave what is rare. When something feels abundant, we stop chasing it. But When something becomes scarce, its value multiplies. Love follows the same law. While she was present, her love may have felt endless, but once she takes it away, the scarcity of her presence makes it priceless. Men fall harder because they suddenly see her as rare, unique, irreplaceable. This is why absence is so powerful. It creates contrast. It paints in bold colors what was once faded in the background. Just as a star shines brighter in the darkness of the night, love shines brightest in its absence. And that brightness blinds the man who once walked carelessly in its light. But there is a deeper reason why missing someone transforms the heart. It is not only about what is gone, it is about what it awakens. Absence awakens reflection. It forces a man to sit with his own silence. In that silence, he begins to see his mistakes, his neglect, his pride. He begins to ask himself why he didn't try harder, why he didn't speak, or more honestly, why he let moments pass without truly being present. Missing someone is not just longing, it is awakening. And this awakening can be powerful. For some, it leads to regret that never fades. But for others, it becomes the beginning of change. Because once you see the true value of what you've lost, you cannot look at love the same way again. You learn that nothing should be taken for granted. You learn that every moment is sacred. You learn that love is fragile. And if you do not protect it, it will slip through your hands. This is why many men fall so deeply after a woman lets them go. They are not only missing her, they are missing the version of themselves that existed with her. They are missing the comfort of being seen, the safety of being cared for, the gift of being loved. And in that longing, they realize that no amount of pride or control could ever replace the value of what is gone. The value of what's missing teaches us one of life's hardest lessons. We only begin to understand the weight of love when we can no longer touch it. It is a lesson that cuts, but also heals. It cuts through illusions, through ego, through distraction. And it heals by awakening gratitude for what still remains in our lives. So let this truth settle in your heart. Do not wait for absence to reveal value. Or do not let silence be the teacher of what laughter once gave. Do not let loss be the proof of what love already was. Appreciate what is in your hands now, because one day if it slips away, you will discover that. The things you overlooked were in fact the very things your soul was built to treasure. And that is why absence is never empty. Absence is full. It is full of meaning, full of lessons, full of truth. And for men who lose, it becomes the mirror that finally shows them what they had all along. Or when a woman chooses to walk away, the man is left with more than just silence. He is left with a mirror. And in that mirror, he is forced to see himself as he truly is. Not as he pretended to be, not as he wanted her to believe, but as he really was in the relationship. This is the moment where responsibility can no longer be avoided. It is easy to dismiss someone when they are still present. It is easy to believe that love will survive neglect, distance, or carelessness. But when absence arrives, excuses disappear. A man can no longer point outward. He must look inward. He must confront the truth that he did not lose her because of fate. He lost her because of his choices. And those choices carry weight. Responsibility is not comfortable. It demands humility. It forces the heart to admit, I could have done better. And for many men, this realization arrives too late. But even late, it has the power to transform, because responsibility, though painful, is the birthplace of growth. Or when she lets go, the man awakens to a reality he had ignored. Love is not maintained by words alone. It requires action, effort, and sacrifice. Presence is not enough. Participation is required. Being there is not the same as truly showing up. And when he finally sees this, the regret floods in. He remembers the times he dismissed her feelings. He replays the moments he stayed silent when he should have spoken. He relives the times he chose comfort over connection. These memories pierce him because they reveal the gap between who he was and who he could have been. This awakening hurts, but it also opens the door to responsibility. He begins to understand that relationships are not about control, as he once believed, but about accountability. He cannot demand loyalty without giving effort. He cannot expect love without giving attention. He cannot hope for trust without showing consistency. In losing her, he learns that love is not a right, it is a responsibility. And this is why many men fall so hard after being let go. Because the weight of responsibility does not vanish with the relationship, it only grows heavier. It lingers in the quiet moments, reminding him of what he could have done differently. It teaches him that love is not a passive experience, but an active duty. The awakening that comes from loss is not only about her, it is also about him. For the first time, he sees the weakness within himself. He sees the pride that blinded him, the laziness that cost him, the silence that betrayed him. This confrontation is brutal because it strips away the illusions of strength, but it is also sacred because it offers him the chance to rebuild, not the relationship, but himself. Responsibility is the dividing line between those who repeat their mistakes and those who rise above them. Some men run from it. They drown themselves in distractions, in anger, in blame. They convince themselves that she was at fault, that the timing was wrong, that life was unfair. But deep down, the mirror still waits. The truth never leaves. Others embrace responsibility. They let the pain of loss carve wisdom into their hearts. They accept that they cannot change the past, but they can change the future. They awaken to the understanding that love must be chosen every single day. They rise from regret with a new commitment to never again take for granted what matters most. This is the power of awakening. It transforms loss into a lesson. It turns absence into a teacher. And it reminds men that strength is not measured by control, but by care. Strength is not shown in pride, but in humility. Strength is not in demanding loyalty, but in earning it through action. The responsibility awakened through loss reaches beyond relationships. It stretches into every corner of life. A man who truly accepts responsibility and love begins to see responsibility everywhere. He learns to value time because it cannot be controlled. He learns to value opportunities because they will not wait. He learns to value people because they are not possessions. In this way, losing her becomes more than heartbreak. It becomes rebirth. But make no mistake, awakening is not easy. It is painful, it is humbling, and it demands change. Yet without it, no growth is possible. Pain is often the doorway to wisdom, and responsibility is the key that unlocks it. And this is why letting go has such power, because it forces the man to stop pretending, to stop running, to stop hiding behind illusions. It compels him to face the truth. Love is fragile, and it demands responsibility. Only when he finally understands this does he truly awaken, not just to the value of what he lost, but to the kind of man he must become if he ever hopes to hold love again. When responsibility enters a man's heart, something begins to shift inside him. It is not just regret. It is not just longing. It is transformation. Loss has a way of breaking down old walls and rebuilding a different kind of strength. And in this process, the psychology of a man changes in ways he never expected. At first, the shift feels like chaos. The mind becomes restless. The heart keeps replaying memories like broken film. The silence she left behind grows heavy, filling every corner of his thoughts. He begins to see patterns he ignored, mistakes he minimized, truths he avoided. What once felt small now feels enormous. What once felt unimportant now feels essential. This is the beginning of reflection. For many men, reflection is uncomfortable. They are taught to move forward, to bury feelings, to pretend nothing touches them. But absence shatters that defense. He cannot run from the quiet. He cannot escape his own mind. And in that stillness, reflection becomes unavoidable. Slowly, the psychology of pride begins to crumble. The belief that he was in control, that she would always be there, begins to feel childish. The illusion of strength is replaced by the reality of fragility. For the first time, he admits that love is not indestructible. For the first time, he admits that emotions are not weakness. They are proof of humanity. This shift is painful, but it is also powerful, because in this brokenness, the man starts to discover depth within himself that was hidden before. He begins to feel emotions he once buried. He allows himself to grieve. He allows himself to miss her, to long for her, to regret. And though it hurts, this openness softens him. It gives him the ability to connect more deeply, not only with others, but also with himself. As the psychology shifts, regret turns into realization. He begins to understand that the things he once dismissed were actually the foundation of love. Her words, her attention, her presence, they were not background details. They were the pillars holding everything together. Without them, he feels incomplete. And in that incompleteness, he learns a truth many resist. Love is not an accessory. It is a core need of the human soul. This realization sparks another change, empathy. When a man feels the pain of being left, he begins to understand what she may have felt when she was ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted. For the first time, he feels what she felt He learns compassion not by reading about it, but by experiencing the weight of loneliness. And this empathy, born from pain, becomes the seed of growth. But the shift in male psychology does not stop there. As time passes, longing transforms into drive. He begins to feel the urge not just to win her back, but to become different, to rise above the version of himself that lost her. The emptiness fuels ambition. The regret fuels change. The pain fuels a desire to grow stronger, not in pride, but in wisdom. This is the strange gift of heartbreak. It forces the man to break the cycle of numbness. It pulls him out of autopilot. It forces him to become awake. And in this awakening, he learns that strength is not about hiding emotions, but about facing them. It is not about pretending nothing hurts, but about having the courage to let the pain shape him into someone better. The psychology of a man after loss is a journey from blindness to sight. At first, he is blind to what he had. Then loss opens his eyes. He is blind to his mistakes. Then reflection shows him his failures. He is blind to his own emotions. Then absence forces him to feel. Through this process, the blindness fades and vision emerges. A vision not only of her worth, but of his own potential. And this is why men often fall harder after being let go, because the shift inside is not shallow. It is deep, it is consuming, it is life-altering. The very core of his psychology is rewired by loss. He no longer looks at love as a possession, but as a privilege. He no longer looks at relationships as comfort, but as responsibility. He no longer looks at her as just a part of his life, but as the most valuable presence he could ever lose. This shift is not immediate. It takes time, pain, and reflection. But once it happens, a man is never the same. The boy who once thought he controlled love becomes the man who understands he must honor it. The person who once walked casually beside her becomes the soul who now knows how heavy her absence feels. And this awareness, though born from heartbreak, is the very thing that can elevate him into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable of love than ever before. There is a kind of strength that speaks louder than words. It is not anger, not pleading, not arguments. It is silence. It is the quiet decision to walk away when respect is missing, when effort is absent, when love is no longer honored. This is the silent power of detachment. When a woman chooses detachment, she sends a message without saying a word. That message is clear. I will not beg for what I deserve. I will not fight to be valued. I will not remain where my worth is ignored. And this message cuts deeper than any confrontation could, because silence cannot be debated. Absence cannot be argued with. Walking away speaks a language that no defense can silence. For a man, this moment is often a shock. He expects resistance, emotional outbursts, maybe even pleading. What he does not expect is calm detachment. And that calmness carries immense power. It shows strength. It shows boundaries. It shows self-respect. And in that strength, the man suddenly realizes something he failed to see before. She does not need him to survive. She chose him, but she can also choose to leave. Detachment is powerful because it is rooted in freedom. A woman who can detach is not controlled by fear of being alone. She understands her value with or without him. And that realization is magnetic because human psychology is drawn to strength. We admire what we cannot break. We respect what we cannot control. We chase what refuses to cling. This is why many men fall harder when faced with a woman's detachment. While she was present, he may have mistaken her patience for weakness. He may have assumed her forgiveness meant she would always stay. But when she walks away in silence, he discovers that what he thought was weakness was actually strength, the strength to detach from anything that does not honor her. The silent power of detachment also exposes truth. It reveals the man's character in its rawest form. Some will crumble, blaming her for leaving, unable to handle the weight of her independence. But others will awaken. They will feel the sting of her absence and realize that her detachment is not rejection. It is a mirror showing him who he was and how little he gave. For the man, this moment becomes a turning point. The psychology of loss collides with the power of her silence, and the impact is unforgettable. He begins to understand that love is not about possession, but permission. She gave him permission to be part of her world. She gave him the privilege of her time, her attention, her heart. And detachment shows him what he lost, not just her presence, but the honor of being chosen by someone who could have walked away at any moment. There is also a deep psychological reason detachment is so effective. Human beings are wired to want what they cannot have. The more available something is, the less urgency we feel. But once it is gone, the desire intensifies. Detachment creates scarcity, and scarcity multiplies value. By walking away, she does not diminish her worth, she magnifies it. This is not manipulation, it is truth. Because genuine detachment is not a game. It is not about making him chase. It is about honoring oneself enough to say, if my value is not seen here, I will take it where it will be. And that authenticity carries an unshakable power. Men fall harder for women who detach because detachment proves independence. And independence is irresistible. It says, I am whole without you. I choose love, but I do not need it to define me. That balance between choosing love and not clinging to it creates a strength. That draws respect even from those who failed to give it before. For the man, her detachment forces a brutal realization. He was never her anchor. She was her own anchor. And if he wants to be part of her life, he must rise to her level. He must meet her strength with responsibility. He must meet her independence with consistency, because she has proven she does not settle. The silent power of detachment is not about punishing. It is about protecting dignity, protecting peace, protecting the heart from being drained where it is not valued. And in this protection, she teaches the man the hardest lesson of all. Love without respect is not love at all. So the man falls harder not only because he misses her, but because he finally sees her. He sees the strength behind her silence. He sees the courage behind her walk. He sees the value of a woman who does not cling out of fear, but chooses out of strength. And that vision changes him forever. Detachment leaves a permanent mark, because once a man has experienced the silence of a strong woman, he cannot forget it. It echoes louder than words, it lingers longer than arguments, and it transforms him more deeply than any lecture ever could. That is the power of letting go, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in silence. Pain is often the doorway to transformation. No man wants to feel it, no heart willingly seeks it, yet it is pain that shapes us more deeply than comfort ever can. When a woman detaches and walks away, the silence she leaves behind does not simply create longing. It creates growth, because through pain, a man is forced to evolve. In the beginning, the pain feels unbearable. It presses on the chest like a weight that cannot be lifted. The mind becomes restless, replaying memories, searching for answers, rewriting moments that cannot be changed. This suffering feels endless, but hidden inside that suffering is a gift, the chance to grow into someone stronger, wiser, and more awake. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions. It removes the mask of pride. It dissolves the belief in control. It humbles the soul. When comfort is gone, a man can no longer live blind. He begins to see not only what he lost, but also who he was. And this vision, though harsh, becomes the seed of transformation. Because pain is not only about what hurts, it is about what it reveals. Think about how the human body grows stronger. Muscles only grow when they are torn. They rebuild through the stress of resistance. The same is true for the heart and the mind. They grow when they are stretched, tested, and even broken. A man who has never faced loss may remain shallow, untested, unaware. But a man who has endured heartbreak learns depth because pain teaches him what comfort never could. In the silence of loss, growth begins with reflection. He starts to see the mistakes that once felt invisible. He realizes the cost of taking love for granted. He feels the regret of not speaking when he should have, not listening when it mattered, not giving when he had the chance. These realizations are sharp, but they are necessary, because growth cannot come without awareness. The next stage of growth is responsibility. Pain forces him to own his actions. It strips away excuses and points the mirror directly at him. This is where many men either break down or rise up. Some run from the pain, drowning it in distractions, refusing to change. But those who face it, those who allow it to teach them, begin to rise. They begin to accept responsibility not only for what they lost, but for who they must become. And then comes strength. Not the shallow strength of pride, but the quiet strength of wisdom. Pain teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches the value of consistency. It shows a man that love is not something to be demanded, but something to be earned through effort and respect. This strength is different. It is not loud, not arrogant. It is calm, steady, and real. Growth through pain also expands empathy. A man who has been broken begins to understand the weight of another person's feelings. He knows what it means to be ignored, so he learns to listen. He knows what it means to feel unseen, so he learns to notice. He knows the cost of absence, so he learns to value presence. Pain does not just change how he views himself, it changes how he treats others. This is why pain, though cruel, can be sacred. It refines, it sharpens, it transforms. It takes the fragments of who he was and rebuilds him into someone capable of deeper love, deeper connection, deeper responsibility. And often men who go through this transformation look back and realize that the very thing that broke them also built them. But here lies the greatest truth about growth through pain. It is a choice. Pain will come to everyone, but growth only comes to those who embrace it. Some allow pain to make them bitter. Others allow it to make them better. Some close their hearts tighter. Others open their hearts wider. The same fire that destroys one man can forge another into steel. This is why many men, after losing a woman who walked away, rise into a version of themselves they never imagined. Because the pain they feel becomes the fuel for their transformation. It awakens hunger. Not only to love better in the future, but to live better in every area of life. It becomes the driving force that turns regret into wisdom and heartbreak into maturity. So if pain feels unbearable, remember this: it is not here to end you. It is here to shape you. It is the chisel that carves away arrogance. It is the storm that washes away illusions. It is the fire that refines the soul. And though it may hurt now, one day you will see that this pain was not your enemy, but your greatest teacher. Growth does not happen in comfort. Growth is born in struggle. And the man who accepts his pain instead of running from it becomes someone entirely new, someone capable of loving, living, and leading with a depth he never had before. True love is not built on chains. It cannot survive in control, fear, or possession. Love without freedom is not love. It is dependency. It is insecurity. It is a fragile cage that eventually collapses under its own weight. For love to last, both hearts must be free to choose, free to stay, free to walk, and most importantly, free to grow. When a man feels the sting of loss, when he suffers the pain of a woman who chose to walk away, he begins to understand this truth more deeply than ever before. He sees that holding too tightly out of fear or pride suffocates what he was trying to protect. Because love is not about holding, it is about allowing. It is about creating a space where both souls can flourish, not just one. Think about it. Anything forced eventually breaks. A flower cannot bloom if its petals are held shut by force. A bird cannot soar if it is trapped in a cage. And a relationship cannot thrive if it is built on control instead of freedom. Love at its highest form must be a choice, freely given, never demanded. Many men only realize this when it is too late. They look back and see how fear drove them to cling, to demand, to control. But control breeds resentment, not intimacy. It creates distance, not closeness. And in that distance, love begins to wither. The tragedy is that the very act of trying to hold on often ensures the loss. The freedom within love is not about carelessness or indifference. It is about trust. It is the quiet confidence that says, I do not own you, I respect you. I do not control you, I choose you. I do not fear losing you because I know love cannot be forced. It must be nurtured. That freedom is what allows love to breathe, to expand, and to deepen over time. A woman who chooses to let go teaches this lesson in the most powerful way. Her detachment shows that love is not real if it is rooted in fear of leaving. Her walk away proves that respect must stand at the foundation. And in that moment, the man realizes that freedom is not the enemy of love. It is the very soil in which love grows. Why does love without freedom fail? Because it robs the relationship of its most essential quality, choice. Without choice, there is no authenticity. Without authenticity, there is no intimacy. And without intimacy, what remains is just an empty performance, a hollow shell pretending to be love. When love is free, it becomes stronger, not weaker, because then every act of affection is genuine. Every moment of care is chosen. Every sacrifice is real. There is no pressure, no guilt, no manipulation, only freedom. And it is in freedom that passion reignites, respect deepens, and connection flourishes. Psychology teaches us something powerful. What we freely choose carries far more value than what is forced upon us. The same applies to love. If someone stays out of fear, that is not love. If they stay out of guilt, that is not love. Only when they stay because they truly want to, that is love in its purest form. For men, this truth often becomes clear only after losing what they thought was permanent. The woman who walked away leaves behind not only silence, but also wisdom. She shows that her love was never about control, never about possession. It was about freedom, the freedom to give her heart and the freedom to take it back when it was no longer respected. And this realization can transform a man. It teaches him that love is not about locking someone down, but about becoming the kind of person they freely choose again and again. It teaches him that control cannot protect what only freedom can sustain. And it teaches him that the highest love is not in holding tighter, but in letting the other person be fully themselves without fear. This is why relationships that thrive are those built on freedom, where both people feel safe, respected, and seen, where both know they can leave, but both choose to stay. That choice, made daily, is what makes love unbreakable. So love without freedom will always fail, because it tries to bind what was meant to be chosen. It confuses fear with loyalty, control with care, possession with devotion. But love in freedom, that is love that lasts. Because in freedom, two souls are not trapped together. They are walking side by side, not because they must, but because they want to. In the end, love is not about possession. It is about presence. It is not about control. It is about choice. And it is not about fear, but about freedom. The deepest truth is that sometimes the greatest act of love is not holding on, but letting go. Because letting go reveals what is real and what was only an illusion. When a woman chooses to walk away, she does more than change the course of a relationship. She awakens the soul of a man. She forces him to face himself in ways comfort never could. She becomes the mirror he cannot escape, the silence he cannot ignore, the lesson he cannot run from. Her absence speaks louder than her presence ever did. And in that silence, he learns. He learns that love cannot be taken for granted. He learns that respect is the foundation, not an option. He learns that freedom is not a threat, but the only soil in which love can truly grow. What once felt like a loss now begins to look like a gift, a painful gift, but a gift nonetheless, because through it he rises into a better version of himself. This is why men often fall harder for women who let them go, not because of weakness, not because of ego, but because the loss awakens something buried deep within them. It shakes their heart, it stirs their soul, it forces them to value what they once overlooked. Her absence becomes the teacher, her strength becomes the standard, and her decision becomes the turning point in his life. And yet, the lesson does not belong only to men. For women, the power of letting go is also a reminder of strength. To walk away when respect is absent is not weakness, it is the highest form of self-respect. To release what no longer honors you is not giving up. It is choosing freedom over fear. It is choosing dignity over desperation. And in that choice, you show the kind of strength that leaves an imprint forever. Love at its core is not about clinging. It is about growing. Two souls walking together not because they must, but because they choose to. That is the beauty of freedom in love. Every day becomes a new choice, a fresh yes, a living act of devotion. And the moment one heart forgets this, the relationship begins to fade. But when both hearts understand it, love becomes unstoppable. Because then it is not built on fear, but on trust, not on control, but on respect, not on chains, but on wings. That is the love that endures. That is the love that inspires. That is the love that heals, strengthens, and uplifts. So the message is clear. If you are holding on out of fear, let go. If you are forcing what no longer breathes, step back. If you are trapped in control, choose freedom. Because love that cannot survive freedom was never love to begin with. And if you are the one facing loss, if you feel the pain of someone walking away, do not despair. Let the pain shape you. Let the silence teach you. Let the absence refine you. Do not see it as an ending, but as a beginning. Because within every heartbreak lies the seed of transformation. Within every goodbye lies the whisper of growth. And within every loss lies the chance to rise again, stronger, wiser, deeper than before. Remember this, sometimes life takes away what you think you cannot live without, only to show you who you were meant to become. Sometimes love leaves, not to destroy you, but to prepare you for the love you were always worthy of. And sometimes letting go is not the end of love. It is the beginning of real love. So walk with courage, choose freedom, value respect, and never forget the love that is truly yours will never need to be forced, never need to be controlled, never need to be chained. It will stay because it chooses to. It will grow because it is free. It will last because it is real. In the silence of letting go, in the pain of loss, and in the freedom of choice, you discover the greatest truth of all. Real love is not found in holding tighter. Real love is found in having the courage to let go, and in trusting that what is meant for you will never need to be captured. It will stay freely because it belongs.